The lunar rover was an outstanding vehicle for field exploration. It weighed about 450 Earth pounds without anything on it. It got a little bit heavier as we got on it and put our equipment there. It could go about 6 or 7 miles per hour over that surface. Now that doesn't sound like very much, but I'll tell you, remember 1/6 gravity, you hit a bump and you're going to be off the surface a bit. And it does seem like it's going a lot faster than that. We actually had it up to 18 kilometers an hour, which would be about 12 or 13 miles an hour going downhill once. And I think even Gene Cernan regretted going quite that fast. It was pretty hard. The rover was a very, very productive vehicle and a tribute to the people who designed and built it.
The crew were on their first extravehicular activity, or EVA, when Cernan brushed against the rover. A hammer in the shin pocket of his spacesuit caught the buggy's rear fender and tore it in half.
Oh, you won't believe it. There goes a fender. Yeah, Bob, I got a little bit of a problem here. Oh, shoot.
Gene Cernan turned around and just scraped against the fender of the lunar roving vehicle, and it snapped a little bit of it off. Now, we might think that this was no big deal, but we need to remember, on the surface of the moon, this lunar dust used to get absolutely everywhere. With the lunar roving vehicle traveling at about 10 or 11 miles an hour at top speed, it was throwing lunar dust everywhere. Not only would the astronauts get covered with the material, but the material was very dark. Now remember, in an airless environment, if you're exposed to direct sunlight, you're going to heat up massively. It's one of the reasons that the outer layer of the Apollo astronaut suits were white. And so what seems to us on Earth to be a relatively minor issue was going to seriously compromise the potential science that could have been obtained from the rest of the mission.
Well, everything's getting awful dusty. Everything is just full of dust.
With the dust threatening the astronaut's safety, something had to be done. In spite of his thick gloves, Gene Cernan managed to unroll and tear off strips of duct tape in an attempt to repair the damaged fender.
And Dina, how you doing on that fender? Bob, I am done. If that fender stays on, I'm going to take a picture of it, because I'd like some sort of mending award. Let's hope. Keep your fingers crossed, and I'll be more careful around the fenders. Okay, copy that.
His quick-fix solution held out. For the next 4 hours, they continued to drive the rover without any problem, stopping to drill holes, collect core samples, and deploy seismic charges. But while on a rough patch of lunar terrain, the fender broke again, and a new problem arose. A thick coating of dark lunar dust began covering the rover's batteries, which were now absorbing the heat from the sun and at risk of overheating.
We got pretty dirty. We cleaned our pressure suits between every EVA, but you could see the scratches on the wrists and on the helmet. Good engineering is going to have to keep the dust out of things. It is very abrasive, but you could still see the scratches. Yours truly, it doesn't prove I was on the moon, but I seem to have had an awful good time while I was there, and not at all bashful about standing around in my underwear.
Back at Houston, NASA engineers understood the seriousness of the situation. If they couldn't come up with a solution while Cernan and Schmidt slept, the next day's exploration would be severely inhibited, limiting the astronauts to within walking distance of the lunar module. Apollo 16 commander John Young was on the case.
John Young spent the night working in a spacesuit back at Houston, working out a procedure to fix it. And they worked out that they would use an old map that they'd already been using, that they didn't need again. They taped it into a curve and then found 2 little clamps which they could use to clamp it to the dust guard.
When the astronauts woke the next morning, Mission Control had instructions for a replacement fender. The new fender held for the rest of the mission, which was to be another 15 hours of EVAs.
Apollo 17's true science potential was saved by duct tape. Don't go anywhere without it.